Hi, this is Chris Converse, and in this episode we'll be taking a look at adjusting colors in CSS using both Sass and less. Now when designing your project, you probably have some colors you want to use, defined either in a creative brief or in a style or branding guide. Using Sass or less will allow you to define a color, then adjust that color's properties with built-in color functions. This will give you a quick and consistent way to define colors and generate new colors based on the rules of your project. So if you'd like to follow along with me, download the exercise files and let's take a look at what's included. Now in the exercise files, there's a Sass file, which is .scss, which is written in the Sassy CSS syntax, and a less file. Each of these files is set to compile into the style.css file. And since I'm using CodeKit to compile my Sass and less files, I also have a CodeKit file here, which is not included in your files. And typically you would only either work in Sass or less, but for this particular tutorial I'm going to be covering both. So to begin, let's start by opening the index.html file in a text editor. Now once you have the HTML file open, you'll see here in the head area, I have a link to the final compiled CSS file, which is called style.css. Inside the body area, we have a header and a main element. Inside of the main, we have an article and an aside. And then outside of the main element, I have a few divs just to create some color bars, just so we have a few extra elements to apply some color adjustments to. And if you'd like to preview this file, you can open index.html in a browser to see the layout. Inside of the browser, everything here that's showing up in blue is being controlled by a color variable that we have set up in both less and Sass. And we're going to be starting with our Sass file. So to begin making our adjustments, let's go back to the exercise files, and let's find style.scss, and let's open that in our text editor. Now inside of here at the top, you can see we have a color variable. We covered color variables in Sass and less in an earlier episode, and we're setting this color variable equal to this blue color here. And then if I scroll through the document, you'll see we're using this in a number of different places. We're using it as the background of the main body element, in addition to a pattern, which are the dots down here. We're using it as the background of the h1 tag. And again, if I scroll through here, you'll see this being used in a number of different places. So the first thing we're going to do is come up to the top. And what I want to do is I want to set the background color, which is defined here in the body selector, to be a little bit darker than the main color. So here the background color behind the dots is the same as the color behind the h1 and everywhere else that this particular variable is being used. So what we can do is get our cursor before the $sign. Let's type in the word darken, beginning parenthesis, and then after the variable name, we'll add an ending parenthesis. Then inside, we're going to put a comma after the variable name, and then we're going to type 10%. Let's hit save. My particular compiling software will give me a notification letting me know that it has compiled this into style.css. Then I can go over to the browser and I can hit reload. Now we'll see at the bottom, the background color of the body element is now 10% darker than the color we specified everywhere else. So Sass is making the calculation and darkening that color automatically based on the hex value that we put in here for the value of that variable. So now with that adjustment made, I'd like to make the same adjustment to the background color of the h1. So I'll scroll down here a little bit. Let's come up here and copy that function. Come down here to background color inside of the h1 selector. Let's paste that. Again, I'll hit save. Come over to my browser, hit reload. Now the background of the h1 tag is just as dark as the background color of the body. Let's keep scrolling down. I want to come down to the bottom here and I want to find the two class selectors for bar. Now down here I wanted the colors to be a little bit different. So what I did is I actually picked hex values in a graphics program to get the lighter blue and darker blue. But instead of doing this, what I'd rather do is use the darken and lighten feature. So for the dot bar, let's come in here and let's paste in our darken color. And let's set the darken value to just 5%. And then I'll come down here to the background color for the div that's inside of the class of bar. Let's paste our darken function here. Let's change darken to lighten. And for the color, we're going to leave this at 10%. So with these in place, we'll hit save. Come back to the browser. We'll hit reload. And now we have our new colors being generated from that main variable. And now that we've made a few adjustments to our color, now we'll create a new color by adjusting the original color using the adjust hue function in Sass. And later we'll do the same thing in less with the spin function. Now when using the color adjustments, we may first think of colors in the order that we're used to seeing them on paper, which is in the CMYK model. However, we do need to remember that the color model for emitted light is RGB. So adjustments we make are based on this model. So the opposite of violet, a 180-degree hue adjustment, would result in green and not yellow. So now back in our CSS, let's define another color and base that color off of an adjustment from the first color. So up here at the top under color 1, let's type a $. Let's type color_2, colon, space, and we'll set the value of this to an adjustment of color 1. So let's come up here and copy the color 1 variable name. Then after the colon for color 2, let's type adjust-hue, put in our parentheses and a semicolon. Inside, let's paste the color 1 variable, then a comma, and then what I want to do is just adjust this a little bit. I'm going to set a 10-degree hue adjustment, so 10 DEG. And so now with this new color variable defined, let's come over here and select and copy $color_2. Let's come down to the body element. Instead of darkening the main color, let's come in here and replace that simply with color 2. Then let's scroll down. The other place I want to use this will be for the div with a class of bar and then the div inside of that. So basically everything that shows at the bottom of the page, I want to use the adjusted color. So for the selector.bar, let's come in here and change this to color 2. And then the same thing for the background color of the div inside of the class of bar. We'll set that to color_2 as well. Then I'll save my file, go back to the browser, hit reload, and now we can see the slight adjustment showing up down here for the background of the body and the two div elements at the bottom of the page. So this is a pretty subtle change, but it does give us a slight variation on the original blue that we defined. So now let's create a second color that's going to have a little more of an adjustment. So after color 2, $color_3, colon space, I'll come up here and copy that adjustment, paste it on the next line, and let's come in here and let's change this to -60 degrees. We're still going to adjust the original color 1. And now to use this color, let's come in here and copy the color_3 variable name. So let's scroll down. Let's find the div that's inside of the aside. Here we have a border color. The border color is being set to color 1. Let's come in here and replace that with color 3. And then right below this property, let's change the text color. So we'll set color to color 3. And then we'll come down a little bit to the H3. The background color here, we're going to set this to color 3 as well. And then one additional property I'd like to set is to set a background color on the div that's inside of the aside. So let's come back up here. After color, let's hit a return. Let's add background color. So what we can do in Sass is use the RGBA color space. So I can type RGBA, put in our parentheses, then a semicolon. Inside, let's paste color 3, then a comma, and now I can put an alpha setting. So I'm simply going to put 0.1. And that's going to give me a 10% version of color 3. So with these in place, we'll hit save. And then over here in the browser, we can see the result of making a -60 degree hue adjustment for the color 1 variable. So now with these color variables set up and all of our adjustments in place, we can now make global changes to our color from one spot. So in the CSS file, let's scroll up. Let's find the definition for the color 1 variable. And let's come in here and change this from a blue to a violet color. So let's change the red value to 79. Let's change the green value to 3C and the blue value to A0. We'll hit save. Back to the browser, we'll hit reload. And now we can see all of the new colors being generated based off of modifying that one variable. So now we're ready to convert our Sass file into a less file. So let's come over here to our Sass file. Let's do a select all. Let's choose copy to copy this to the clipboard. Switch back to the exercise files. Let's find style.less. Let's open this in our text editor. And I left this blank. So let's come in here and delete the comment. Let's paste in all of our SCSS code. Let's scroll up to the top. And I'll use my text editor's search and replace field to replace our variables. So first let's come in here and select $color underscore. I'm going to put that into my find field, into my replace field. I'm going to paste that again, and I'm going to change the $sign for an @ symbol. And then I'll replace all of those instances so that all of the variables are now following the less syntax. Now there's a few other adjustments I need to make. The first one for color 2 and 3, less does not use the function name adjust-hue. It uses the word spin instead. So let's change these to spin. And let's scroll down and find the div inside of the aside. Less does not allow us to use the RGBA color space to make an adjustment here. So instead of RGBA, we're going to type in the word fade. And then we're going to change the 0.1 to 10%. This will essentially do the same thing as Sass, but again, the syntax is a little different. And then before I save this, let's change the overall color again, just to make sure the less file is compiling properly. Let's come up to color 1, and let's change this to 90 for red, 6D for green, and 3.1 for blue. With that in place, let's hit save. Check to make sure your less file got properly compiled down into style.css. Come back to the browser and then hit reload. So we've now used Sass and less to create color variations from a single color defined in a variable. Using these adjustment techniques, you'll be able to create an entire range of colors for your website based on any color rules you need to adhere to. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Sass and less, I'd recommend taking Joe Marini's course entitled CSS with Less and Sass, which is available here in the library. And so with that, I'll conclude this episode, and as always, thanks for watching.